old diaper. Now you think I can remember that? Yes, I can.
Yeah.
I remember the first pair of shoes that ever went on these feet.
So you
Do
you
you?
want some more
You
stuff
you
on?
I've got a friend that's got he's 93
Mhm.
and he's got a memory like you. Says he can remember back when he was a year and a half old.
Oh Lord God, yeah.
So you want some more stuff on? Go on past Larkin and find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on past Larkin. I want to find out who Larkin. I want to find out who Larkin's daddy was.
It's on his name.
Is it?
Austin Jones, and the woman was Nancy Laws.
Yeah.
And that's where I quit.
Austin Jones.
That's where I quit getting you stuff, but I'll go back and get you some
I want to
on
find out
past
where. I
him.
want to find out where the gym come in. That there was a gym in them somewhere. A Jim Jones in them somewhere.
Oh, was there? So you think
Besides, that's who Uncle Jim was named after.
Okay.
Now let
I'll
me
see
ask
what
you
I
one
can
thing.
find.
That Ayers you knew, you talked about Ayers a while ago. Did they live on Jacks Creek Road or?
Yep.
That's where. See, that's where the Ayers lived,
Yep.
and that's where Ellen and I, our relation, our kinship comes in.
The
Did you ever hear
Ayers.
of Garland Ayers?
Yep.
He was our what, dear?
He was our
Great four greats back
well,
grandfather.
Lucindy was
Your great.
Mary Ann's mother.
Lucinda Ayers was Mary Ann Ayers Laws.
Hughes.
She married Laws, and then her child was who?
It's hard, I know, to remember all this, but
Yeah.
I've got a lot of it down in my head.
Got that way an old man's mind up.
Let's see, there was Mary Ann, and then there was Lucindy, and then there was Garland.
Lucinda was before Mary Ann. She was Mary Ann's mother.
Mary Ann and Lucindy was her mother, and Garland.
Oh, Garland Ayers, yeah,
Garland was Lucindy's daddy.
And Lucinda's sister was.
I went to school with him. I went to school up at Jacks Creek, up at Claremont High School on Jacks Creek. See, I went the first year at Tipton Hill, and had to walk from Rock Creek down through there and across the trestle.
God,
up through there and up that hill by Union Hill Church. You never been up there to that church on top of the hill?
Union Hill, yeah.
Yeah. Now people say I had to walk 7 miles to school. I had to walk a good 7 miles to school.
And after you pass that graveyard, I don't know how many miles it is, but there's a church on the left. Sits up there on top of a hill on the left.
Red Hill Baptist.
Is that Red Hill? I thought that might be.
Let me see your book a minute.
I thought that might be Red Hill you was talking about.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well.
But see, you remember where the schoolhouse was down there at Tipton Hill
Yeah.
School?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at
Now,
it again.
If I go from there, I come by there. If I'd get out of the school right there, I'd come there and walk up the Union Hill Church up on top of the hill.
Yeah, good. That's a good walk.
Then we'd walk all the way down. You couldn't get an automobile down through there. Then you'd walk all the way down to the railroad, up the railroad, across the trestle, and then up the creek to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And there was a big old rock. I guess it was bigger than that. And I remember when I started school, and we'd go up on that, we'd get up there, and if I couldn't bear from my feet, I'd barefoot it. I couldn't bear from my feet to touch them railroad irons, because it'd stick to them just like, you get a piece of ice in your hand, it'd stick to you. And my feet would stick to it, and they'd pull the hide off of them.
Ooh.
Well, I'd try to walk on the cross ties. Me just a little fella. And I'd walk get up there on that hill, and the sun would done come up over the hill, and they'd get on that old rock, and they'd make that rock warm, and an old rock will hold heat all night. I'd get up on that rock.
Ellen had an aunt that lived right there across from Tipton School, just down the road a little piece on. It was on
That
your
was Aunt Lena.
Aunt Lena.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
That was on your.
moved out of that.
That was on your mama's side, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, she moved out of that hole after her husband died. So what are you doing in your book? What all have you got going in it?
I've got down to I've almost got down now to where that I started out with my birth on Rock Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Started putting that all down. Then I started out on running away from home when I was 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in there when I had polio.
Mm.
And put it in there when we moved from Rock Creek over to the Jeff Bird Holler in Yancey County. And how Mom give us away.
Yeah.
And how that Viney treated us. And I've done went through my first marriage. Went through my old girlfriends that I went to see at school. Got all their names in there.
Mm.
And got my wife's names in there. Now I've got down to almost to where that Grace and I met.
Mm-hmm. Well.
But I'm going to have to go back and recalculate some things and do some things and put some extra pages in, because so much when you're doing such a stuff like that, you know, so much other stuff comes to your mind.
Oh yeah.
And it brings you back.
Mm-hmm.
Honey Viney used to tie my hands behind me. Put my hands behind me like that and tie me up the apple tree of the night up there on Rock Creek.
Oh my goodness.
And when we plant the crops, plant taters, beans and stuff like that, sow the fertilizer, I remember crawling down in fertilizer sacks and going to sleep. She put us all out.
Goodness. But that rock kept you warm. That rock you talked about, that kept you warm too, didn't it?
Well, I'd get up on that old big rock. And I'm not being ugly. Forgive me, God, if you think I am.
No, we're not going to think
I
that.
would get up on that old big rock. Didn't have no shoes on. And I would urinate on my feet to get my feet warm.
Mm.
When I'd get to the schoolhouse, Miss Bennett was her name. She'd have me to stand right over next to it had them old radiator heaters in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'd have me to stand next to that radiator. She'd say, "Why don't you stand over there and you get good and warm?"
Why didn't you go to one of your uncles?
Uncle Bob, Uncle Jim's brother, said, "Bob," said, "why don't you go down there and get them young ones and bring them up here?" Said, we'll make out with them. His wife already told. And he said no, said he wasn't gonna get involved in it. Said he knowed that the young ones are having a hard time.
Mm-hmm. One of Mama's sisters done the same thing. She gave her kids up, and they ran away. And one of them died. But Mama, she went and got Kathleen. I don't know if you remember.
I remember, yes, I remember Kathleen.
She took Kathleen and raised her.
Uh-huh.
So I bet my daddy would have took you in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Them boys are Rich and Dave. All of them. Every one of them boys would have took us in. Now we wouldn't have been treated. We would have been treated so mean. I don't know why Viney was so mean to us.
I didn't never know she
But
was
I
mean.
could sit down at the table, and if I had little milk like that and cornbread, and I'd ask for a piece of cornbread, she'd take her finger just like that. She'd reach right over and she'd come right around my face.
Mm.
Call me a little George Jones, S.O.B., don't you ask for another piece of bread. Now that'll stick with you till you
Oh,
go to
yeah.
your grave.
Yeah.
They undoubtedly didn't like him.
But when Uncle Jim got Alzheimer's, I don't know where you know about it or not.
No, I don't remember it.
And they lived up here on Springs Road, right across in front of the big Lutheran church.
I remember when he died.
The guy's the one took him to the hospital. They called me, Viney called me and said, Lawrence said, I can't do nothing with this old man. Said, will you come out here? He had Alzheimer's. And honey, he just had a little old place about like that, and he just back up in there and just mess all over himself. I don't mean to embarrass you or anything.
Oh, that don't
Oh,
embarrass
I'm
no.
us.
telling you the truth.
You're fine.
I'd go out there and she would be a raising cane and raising cane. I'd say, Viney, why don't you just go in yonder and find something to do? I'll take care of Unc. And I'd start picking around and say, Unc, one of these days I'm going to bust your butt. And he'd just look at me and laugh. And I knowed right then, I knowed how to treat him. I'd get him out of there, change his overalls, take water hose and wash the niceness out of him and throw him in the washing machine,
Yeah.
clean him up, put him on clean overalls. And when he got down, when he had that heart attack and he was taken to the hospital, I was one. I called the police and told them I was on the way to the hospital with him, and they said, well, we'll give you an escort.
Hmm.
They never could catch me. I took him to the hospital. Uncle Jim passed away. Then Rose called me. Said Viney was bad sick. I was standing by her bedside when she left this world.
Mm.
And the woman that was taking care of was helping, trying to be good to her. Said, Miss Jones said, can I do anything for you? Said, is anything that you want done? She curled them fingers up again. She said, if I could get a hold of you, she said, I'd tear the hell out of you.
Mm.
3 minutes from that time, she was in eternity, honey.
Mm-hmm.
And before God.
Mm. Nobody don't know if you went up or down.
That's exactly right.
I know she used to call Daddy up, fussing about things. I don't remember what, and would get him upset. And I would say, Daddy, why do you keep talking to her? Don't talk to her. But he would. That was his sister, so.
And after Grace and I got married, see, I hadn't made contact with one time when I was going with a girl up here in Hickory, and I was staying with Uncle Nathan and Elsie,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a 40 model Pontiac coupe, and I was dating this girl from Vale. Her name was Kathleen Lohman. She's in that book too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And I took her, and I know Stewart lived up there above Covey Rock Baptist Church on the river bank there above Covey Rock Baptist Church up there in Yancey County. And Stewart and I was always good friends. So I took Kat and me and her, I said, let's ride up in the mountains today. And we rode up to Stewart's, and I said, there's where my first cousin lives. I said, you want to stop and see him? And she said, yeah, let's stop. We stopped there. And Stewart said he had to go to Unicoi, Tennessee. He had to go up there. And I asked Stewart, I said, tell me something, Stewart. I said, how long has it been since you've seen Mose and Leah, Mom? And he Well, he said, I seen them a couple of weeks ago or something like that. He said, they live up at Red Hill. He said, I'm just going to run right on across just a little past Beulah Dean up there, and I'm going to get some stuff so that you can ride up there with me, and I'll drop you off at the road, and you can walk over there. Well, Cat had on a pair of shorts, like your husband's got, and he let us out at the road, and we walked over there. And old man Moses sitting out on the porch. I don't know what Mom's doing. She's doing something in the house. And I went in, I figured, after I hadn't seen them 20, 30 years, they'd be glad to make acquaintance and stuff. And I went up and met old man Moses, introduced Cat, introduced myself. And he said, yeah, I know you. And I asked him, where's Mom at? She's in there in the house doing something. I heard her in there hollering, carrying on. Something. And said, she'll be out in a minute. She come out there. She eyed Cat up and down. She never said, how are you? Where have you been? Or anything like that. First words come out of her mouth is, where did you meet that whore?
Good, no?
Wasn't that some congratulations for me?
Mm-hmm.
Golly.
I'm telling you the truth, young'un.
And who was she? Was she?
That was my mother.
Oh, your mother?
She cared more about them last 3 boys that she had than she did her first ones, didn't she? Them lost
yeah.
boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that Robert was her favorite.
I asked Cat, I said, Cat, do you feel like walking? She said, I guess I do. And she had on a pair of sandals. And she reached down, took her sandals off, carried them in her hand, and I got her by the hand, and we walked out.
Good.
Across the hill.
Mm.
I never seen her no more till, God, I don't know how long it was. And then Jay, he got coming around.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we lived down there in that little old shack, and he'd come around once in a while, but Mom never come around. And she got sick. Mom did. They put her in pill care. Or out yonder in Beaumont, in that there Bryan Center.
Yeah.
Well, didn't have nobody sick with her. They called me one day and asked me, Jay did, would you come and I've got to take Dolly to the doctor, and said, would you come and go out there and sit with Mom today and stay with her? Why, yeah. I told Ruby, I said, I'm going out there, sit with Mom. Maybe I'll get a chance to talk to her. And I went in there and sat down and talked to her, and she was in her good mind. She was in her right mind. That's right, Mom. Is there anything that you'd like for me and you to talk about today? About the past, the things that's gone by? She looked at me and she said, my conscience is as clear as a bell. She said, I ain't got nothing to say. I said, okay. Then they put her in nursing home, health care out there. She died out there, and I was working at Coca-Cola, and my boss man in Nashville, he was in Nashville then. He called me and he said, Martin said, I hate to break the bad news to you. He said, you got to go with pale care. I said, well, I got to go over there for Dennis, and he said, your mother's passed away.
What year was that? Approximately.
I'd have to dig through the
Oh,
obituary.
Because it hadn't been long. I'm sure she didn't live long after we saw her, did she?
I don't remember.
Oh, remember on Springs Road?
We went to Jay's and seen her one time.
Went to Jay's and seen her one time when they lived up there on Springs Road.
Yeah, they
That-
lived in that trailer.
Uh-huh.
Mosey was over there.
That's where I videoed her.
Well, see, you videoed her?
Yeah, he's got a video of her.
It's over 12 minutes long, and if you come to the library, I'll let you see it tomorrow.
Okay.
If whatever day is good for you, I'll show it to you on the computers over there.
You might
Well,
not.
see, after I met Grace, she never would have nothing to do with me and Ruby or nothing like that. Jay'd come around once in a while. And Rob, he'd always come.
Yeah.
Rob, he'd always come and help us out. Or do anything for us if we asked him to or anything like that. But after I met Grace said to me, said, I want to meet your family. I said, you sure? I said, you ever heard of the Hatfields and the McCoys? I said, if you want to meet my family, all right, I'll bite the bullet. I'll take you. But I said, don't be surprised. But now she never did meet Mom.
Really?
But she went, met Jay, Mosey, Milt, and Rob.
Mhm.
She never did meet Faye. She never did meet Burdale. But when she met Rose, I'd take her to see Rose
Mm-hmm.
and the nursing home. One day I took Jay had done something. He had to go in this here Trinity Village up here. It was a Lutheran home then. And she said, let's go up there and see your brother Jay. We went up there. And honey, he unwound her clock right quick. He looked at her and he said, you think you're better than everybody. He said, I never did like you. I don't like you now, and I never will like you. She said, well, Jay, I'll tell you what, I don't have to come back and see you.
Well, he wasn't in his right mind then, was he?
Well, yeah, he's in his right mind. He just mean as a devil.
Mhm.
Jay was mean, honey. God, yeah.
You mentioned Rose. Is that the Rose that made that shirt?
Yeah, Rosie Jane.
Rosie Jane was she kin to you?
That was my double first cousin.
That's Aunt Bonnie's
Okay.
daughter.
She sewed together a bike shirt for me one time,
Yeah,
and I wore it yesterday.
you did.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it as long as I
Is
can.
she still living?
Rose? No.
She was up in
Or
We went and seen
Taylorville.
her at the rest home over here, but she
over in
didn't know us.
Taylorsville?
yeah.
She didn't know who we was.
No, last time at Evelyn brought her here. Me and Grace was living here. Evelyn brought her, come here with her, and she asked Evelyn who I was and who that man was, and then Grace got up to go in the kitchen to